Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Nadia Haqqani, your host for the day, and I want to greet and extend a warm welcome to all of you at the India Audio Summit and Awards 2023. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, everybody present here. Thank you so much for coming here. Let us hear a bigger round of applause for all of you present here. India Audio Summit and Awards, an initiative by radioandmusic.com, is one such platform that celebrates, encourages, and honors accomplishments by talents across the audio industry. Well, radio and music has been in the industry for 15 years and has established itself as a leader. Indian Music Fest, Radio Connects, the Cliff Music Awards, Indian Audio Summit and Awards are their IPs that provide a platform for artists to showcase their talent. The portal is known for their extensive coverage of interviews with musicians, engagement with music business, documenting artists' lifestyle, radio and music, and has come a long way and are working hard on their music news platform and IPs. Well, their current IP, Indian Audio Summit and Awards 2023, is a home ground recognition that largely focuses on the audio industry, something that not just Indians, but the world will look forward to. Please come on the stage for doing this honor, Mr. Anil and M. Wanvari, whose guidance and support has encouraged us to build this wonderful celebration. To stay back on stage and share your thoughts, please. Thank you.
Very good afternoon to all of you all, or good evening. Thank you all for being here. The first sounds that a baby hears are a mother crooning, even before she can recognize that it's a mother. And that really calms the baby. So audio plays a very, very important role in all our lives, right from the time we are born. How many of you remember your mother, without you really knowing she's your mother or your father, humming to you? How many of you remember and crooning to you? Does everyone remember or no? I do. Can I have a show of hands? Does everyone remember Mama crooning to you? No, they don't want to show their hands anyway. Yeah. So audio plays a very important role in our lives, right from the times we are born. And as far as India goes, it should play, according to me, it should play an even bigger role because radio is a far more reaching medium than even television. And internet, of course, is penetrating deep, and that's giving a better opportunity for audio and radio to spread. I'm glad that a bunch of young people have come up who are actually indulging in this segment. And what I mean by indulging is they've just started indulging. We have a long way to go in every department of audio. Why did we set up in the Indian Audio Summit? Because we hope to catalyze this entire sector by bringing the industry together. We believe that need to set up a platform which is by a love of radio. I love radio. I love audio because I've been a radio jockey myself way back in the 80s when probably some of you all were in your knickers or in your shorts. So, and a sports commentator as well. So for me, radio is very, very close to my heart. And that's why Radio and Music was set up around 15 years ago. Without much support from the industry in terms of advertising dollars or spends, we've been funding it over the years. And I'm glad that we've got a new young team led by Mishal, Somitro, Namrata, and the rest of the people who are actually exploring the potential that radio and music has in terms of engaging with the ecosystem. I'd like you all to applaud the team, and because they're the team who's driving it. I'm the face, but actually this is the team which is driving it. A big thank you to them, and a big thank you to the industry for participating in such big numbers because we've chosen a different venue. Normally we choose a five-star hotel for an event like this or for a gathering like this. But again, knowing the industry, short of budgets, we had to choose this kind of a place. I would love to have it. Hopefully the industry will explode in terms of spends on it, maybe subscriptions, and we can have a grander reception or grander get-together in the next few years. From our side, we request your support and being a participant in whatever we do. If you all can spare some money to get things going, we welcome it. If you can't, at least participate and evangelize audio and radio, audio which includes podcasting as well as radio, and all the formats and all the genres that come under this. I won't talk a lot, beyond this. And thank you all for all being there. And hopefully, we have a great evening ahead. It's going to be windy outside and it's going to be a little cold, but you'll have a very, very warm welcome from all of us at radioandmusic.com. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I want to express my gratitude to all our sponsors for their support in building up this wonderful celebration. Music licensing partner Hooper.ai, gifting partner Nature for Nature Beauty. And let's have our industry experts present here who will speak about the audio industry, future challenges and its way forward. Let me call on stage for a panel discussion MARIYAM Thomas, presenter, podcaster, producer, and founder Maed in India. Let's welcome with your energy SREERAMAN THIAGRAJAN, co-founder and CEO Awaaz.com. Mantra, founder M&M Talkies. Yeah, absolutely. NEETI SANSARE, founder Audstory. SUNIL KUMARAN, COO Big FM, a very warm welcome. KHANNA, founder Songdew.com. And ladies and gentlemen, to moderate this session, we have founder, CEO, and editor-in-chief, Mr. ANIL N.M. WANVARI, to take this forward. Let's welcome with your energetic applause. Thank you.
एक और कुर्सी इधर ला दो यार. हाँ, इधर बैठेंगे कुमारन साहब. Hi, we're just getting used to this small space over here, but our hearts are big, by the way, at radioandmusic.com. I want to get the bad news out of the way from the team, from the experts on stage here first. We know there's a lot of potential in audio, whether it's audiobooks, whether it's podcasting. I didn't mention audiobooks earlier, but they're brilliant to listen to. Or whether it's the different genres which are coming in podcast and different radio formats which are coming up. So I'd like to get the bad news out of the way here. How are we expecting 2023 to be? Who's going to begin? Who's going to start singing? What do we expect in the coming year? You want to begin?
So I literally read an article today, first thing in the morning. And sorry to burst everyone's bubble or poo-poo the party, but it's so great that I started with poo-poo. But I will say one thing is that I think 2020 saw the pandemic saw a huge explosion of like podcasts. And I think one of the things that was there in this article was saying that from 2020 to 2022, there's been a massive drop in the number of new podcasts launched, which I think is a given, but I think the trends around what that means is that there may be a sort of slowdown in listenerships compared to what we were seeing in 2020, and that are we going to see new shows? Are people going to be more inclined to listen to regular shows that are releasing daily and weekly versus seasonally? So there's a lot of questions up in the air. And can I predict the future? Absolutely not. So yes, I'll leave that to soothsayers and so on.
So I would share some insight from music perspective where we are running this portal to support indie musicians. The data published by Spotify, indicated that 2 years back, number of creators who uploaded the music on Spotify through various labels, distributors, was around 5 million. Last year, it was 8 million. So a whopping jump of 3 million creators. And next 2 years, this number is going to cross 11 million. So the large, because production, cost of production is going down, new technology, new tools are coming. I think it is just growing at a mind-boggling pace, the kind of content which is getting created. And because it is now non-linear broadcast or on-demand thing, it is no more really in the clutches of that linear thing that whatever masses want, only that content would be consumed. Here there is long tail of content creation, whether it is music, podcasts, etc. And people are consuming in a big, big manner. It's just that the revolution which is taking place, it is happening more, perhaps definitely on music side, it is more on the younger generations, which perhaps not many people who are decision makers in various brands, etc., they are perhaps not feeling that much, but it is very much obvious now what is happening. So I see very, very optimistic. Yes.
Even I see it very optimistically because we discussed this, the report, right? I don't know how much of that represents our country in that. And also, if we keep 2020 in mind, that was pandemic. People were trying podcasting because of free apps like Anchor. They just created 1 episode, 2 episodes. They just wanted to see how it is growing. But now, I believe serious people who understand this space are stepping into this game, and then when they are creating content that's long term, one of the reasons is because I work with a lot of creators and influencers, and I'm talking about biggies on Instagram when they are and YouTube, when they are thinking that they need to step into that space, which automatically will make it slightly more massy because others will also understand the importance of that space and they would also like to enter.
So there is a book by this gentleman called Chris Zook, which says "Profit from the Core." Okay, and I think for us at radio and as radio industry per se, it wouldn't have been more relevant time than this to kind of profit from its core. We have built a legacy for about 15 years where we have really built some solid strengths. And I think if you ask me what 2023 has in store or 2024, it's going to be our time to pivot on these trends and leverage the opportunities that are coming our way. And that's going to be what 2023 is going to be for radio as an industry and for us as a brand.
Yeah, so we are Awaaz.com, right? We have been fiercely independent platform. Now, this year, what we are noticing or starting late last year is almost all the big publishers, whether it is news or even terrestrial radio, they all have been moving away from conventional and massively transforming to digital play, right? So, for example, 2 years ago, it was almost like, in the land of the blind, man with one eye is the king, and I was that one eye guy, right? Now, almost all the traditional guys are now having a digital app and digital distribution, and they're taking it seriously, right? So, whatever the head start we had, it will run out because these large guys have deep pockets, but it's good news for the category because audio, the envelope is being pushed for the category. So, it is an opportunity because it shows that if a large publisher and a radio company with deep pockets are putting that money in digital version of audio, so we are already there. So now we need to up our game and not concede at this point. So that's a good news and bad news in mix katamita for us right now as Awaaz.com. Yeah.
Okay, see, but if you're reading the indications, broad economic indicators, it's going to be a tough year, very tough year in every way. Spotify is going to announce layoffs this week globally. And I believe the podcast division is also going to see some sort of layoffs. So from a creator who runs an aggregator distribution platform, what does it mean for you? That, the news, actually it's mixed. I thought it was bad news, but they seem positive. So what's your perspective, Manjot?
I think we're all trying to see the world through colored glasses at this point of time. And no, you're absolutely right, Anil. There is a jolt that one can feel. But I think just like any other industry, which initiates and it starts off on a high, it's a vertical rise. And then there is a time that comes when stagnation hits in. And that's where the sheer strength of the industry is showcased, whether you can maintain that stagnation. Of course, 2020 was a huge rise. People were discovering podcasts. At this point of time, as we are directly connected with the listeners as M&M Talkies, we get a lot of reaction from our listeners. We know that they're diversifying themselves. They're going to newer forums. They are exploring podcasts too. So yes, not a tip. I wouldn't take that one news or one article straight to heart. And I believe in the industry, 2023, 24, and 25, 3 years to be their golden years.
Oh, fabulous. I'm happy. So that's not bad news. It's good news. So you've totally destroyed my intro, which I wanted to give the dark news. You've given it good news. So let's go on. What's good about the audio industry? Beginning with Sunil. What's great about it? Since we are looking at it optimistically, not with probably with rose-tinted glasses, I believe. But let's talk about the good of the audio industry.
Sure. So this is the way I just wanted to kind of add on to what Mantra has said, and the doomsday prediction that we are all kind of looking and staring at is, I think, overstated, very frankly. We have to understand that we have come out of a very bad phase, which was COVID, right? And we were all kind of learning and grappling with that rapid change that happened in environment. And we, as in any business, we all evolved very, very rapidly. So this is a phase of consolidation, and you cannot expect, to leapfrog when it comes to a space of consolidation. This is the time where you really sharpen your tool, right? So for us, for instance, in the radio industry, like I was mentioning, we are going to pivot on a whole lot of digital opportunities that is coming our way. Now, that doesn't mean we will do it instead of radio, right? Radio still runs my, the pace for the bills. So the point is, how do you balance that pace of growth? Right? Where do you kind of find the tipping point? How much do I invest my time and energy behind these newer initiatives is the call that we need to all kind of take right now. Not to worry unduly that, this is all a downward slide. It's not. We have kind of built a very solid foundation when it comes to all the digital opportunities in the audio space. And I think it's now time to understand where your strengths are, what can you leverage, and what should you bet on. I think that's where the phase is.
But I see even radio internationally going towards layoffs, like the other sectors have come into, whether it's Swedish radio, whichever, look at all the major radio stations, there are going to be layoffs because, there's a downturn, there's an economic compression happening. So it's not an expansion.
That's exactly the point. So point is
about, so do we see that happening in radio?
We don't see that happening here because we think we are smarter, because we think we know where to pivot and what to pivot on, okay? So last 2 years have been extensive amount of work understanding what are the digital opportunities that we as a radio player can leverage, okay? So if I have a strength of 100 plus jocks, now each of them are influencers which are not just radio influencers, they are micro nano influencers, right? Doesn't that open up a complete green field for me of going into influencer marketing as a space, right? I have built an expertise over the last 15 years about, I know what works in audio, what doesn't, right? Doesn't that give me a huge advantage when it comes to spaces like podcast or smart speakers or whatever you say? So this is where the opportunity lies. It's about pivoting and pivoting at the right time. I think that's what the trick is. And it's not about being unduly worried that there's a doomsday happening there.
Okay, I'm going to go on to SREERAM. Yeah. What about, same question. It's continuing with that question that there are dark clouds on the horizon.
Right.
And are we going to see cutbacks? Are we going to see more cautious investments? Are we going to see brands shying away from this medium? We have a lot to do to evangelize audio.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So if you look at the short term, if you take it so close to our eyes, everything looks so bad because we don't look at it quarter on quarter at all, right? So we have, believe it or not, a 20-year horizon. That's what we are looking at. We are looking at, in the 90s when Sun TVs and Star TVs started with 3-hour programming, and today they're all like, 7,000 crore revenue companies, right? So we are looking at a 20-year horizon. So anything that happens in a quarter or 6 months, I'm genuinely not concerned because mentally we are prepared for that. In fact, yes, there are so many bumps in the road when it comes to monetization. The flavor of the season changes. Some new innovations come and go, like some short videos will come and go. Some new chat GPT will come and go, right? So marketing budgets will always go for that as calling as innovations. But like I said, we are looking at a very, very long term horizon here. And then the one thing we are very, very steadfastly committed to is keeping our audience. It's not about getting more audience, it's also about keeping the ones you have. So that only happens if you are continuously invested in giving them fresh content. So a lot of our efforts goes in doing that. No matter what the cost for us is, thankfully our company structure, we have other services that takes care of this product and so on. So we are looking at a long-term prospects. So I'm not worried in the short term at all.
So I think if we look at the industry, it is just growing, and most of the trends, when you say it is the economy is looking like going down, etc., they are perhaps more valid for matured markets, not really the trend which is just growing and is a nascent industry. Just to give you, our experience, COVID time when so many industries went down, we in our company saw 100% growth happening. Revenues. And let's understand, because it's very important to understand that why is it happening. There are always two sources of revenues. One you say subscription driven and one is advertising driven. When you talk about the brands and there is a fragmentation of media and there are large number of opportunities for the brands are there. So there is a pressure for sure that how much advertising revenue can you get. What purchasing power of youth in India is increasing. And if you can deliver content for which people are willing to pay, you have significant opportunities to tap. I can tell you from my experience on music industry, just 2 years back, it was unimaginable that ticketed events of 1,000 rupees for independent music will sell. Today, there are guys who in 2 years, they are doing 10 gigs in 10 cities and everywhere there are 1,000 people buying 1,000 rupees ticket. So consumers are spending money. And that's a good thing that if we can create a content for which people are willing to spend money, you don't have to look at advertising revenue for sure.
So as a creator, person who creates, do you see a lot more creation happening in the coming year, or do you see controlled creation?
So I have to be honest and say that functioning not just as a creator, but also as a production house. So I'm always able to see who are the kind of people who are approaching us to actually handle their production for their shows. There are more brands, more creators. I keep saying it's the season 2 syndrome, which is they get the experience of creating their own show, but you reach a sort of a critical point where you're I need to do something a little better, a little more, which is when they sort of come to us because we're able to streamline a lot of their production processes. We're able to do more stuff and be more innovative in terms of format and ways in which we can do this. So I will say for sure, I have more brands approaching us to handle their production, more creators who want us. And also the thing that I've seen a huge shift in literally the last 3 months is that we now have 3 projects that have come from outside the country. So, and these are creators that are based in Europe, that are based in the UK, that are based in the US, who are hiring into India for us to handle their production. So for me, I'm seeing that people still want to make shows, and they're definitely, I'm at least seeing that it's interesting who are the kind of people who are actually looking at making shows.
Yeah. Mantra, you're an aggregator, creator, distributor.
Yeah, absolutely. I see the kind of productions that are coming in. As you know, Anil, we specialize in audio fiction, and the kind of adaptations that are coming to India. We're very happy to have that. Even a DC Comics wanting to come to India and create Batman, it was a huge move for Indian fiction market, and that came to us. And there is clearly indication of many more such projects coming up in 2023. So when you have these international collaborations, when you have these adaptations of super hit podcasts that have already taken place all over the world, it clearly states that not only is the world looking at India as a consumer market for them, and but at the same time, this is where they're getting the maximum hits also. Hey, thanks to India being the most populated country in the world now. But hey, there are lots and lots more listeners being generated every day. But one thing, and sir, you know this thing very well, it's the same radio listener who used to listen to you. It's the same generation shift which is listening to podcasts. So the market for audio listeners will always remain. Of course, you cannot compare it to 2020. We all know that year being a very, very tough year for the entire world as far as the virus was concerned, but when it came to consumption of may it be OTT content or audio content, it skyrocketed. So you cannot compare that year to 2023. People have moved on towards better things. People have moved on towards living their life, but it's not that they have left this mode completely. They are still hooked on to the medium.
So you're a platform. What's the things on mouse and the DAOs as far as your platform is concerned? How much of consumption is happening? How many minutes is each user listening to? Could you share some data on some of your shows?
Yeah. So what we believe is
Pre-pandemic, pandemic, and post-pandemic.
Okay, sure. So we believe in owning the distribution pipelines, right? We do everything in-house. The content is in-house, product is in-house. So we are uniquely available in 14 different places. For example, we are available in the back of a car of an Ola Play. So if you take a Ola Play, you can find Avaz there. We are available in Jio set-top box. We are available in that 1,000 rupees Jio's feature phone. We are available inside Paytm inbox, right? This is apart from our own Android and iOS, right? So pre-pandemic, we were in 3 languages. And we used to get about 4 million streams a month. Pandemic was a good time for the content that was in the healing, mental wellness and spiritual devotional content just picked up huge. And I think also a lot of people tried podcast for the first time. We call this as Bartan and business. That's what we used to call, because even the CXOs of the world, there was no maid servant coming home and they were washing their own utensils. So video doesn't help them. So audio would really go well, right? So we used to create a lot of content for all types of people, right? And we were very careful about that. So that around that time, late 2020, we were at 6 million streams per month. And now we are about 10 million streams per month. So the average session is, when a person comes to our platform, the session is about 2.2. So that means they're trying at least 2 different episodes and little more than that. So we did a user research and found out travel, of course, is the number one reason. So that 2 episodes roughly translate to an average travel time of 40-42 minutes for an Indian, which goes with the national average, right? So travel is the number one reason now. Like I said, during pandemic, people had a lot of time. Now that they have other things to do. So travel is a best friend of audio in that sense. But surprisingly, some unique stats come out. For example, I told you we are available in Jio set-top box. The numbers there are really, really promising. In fact, the reason we were even available on a Jio set-top box TV, very audio only platform, we don't even have any visual there. It's just a static image. I woke up early one day and I saw my dad turning on his TV and then going about doing his work while he was listening to TV. So actually he was playing a video, but he was not listening to it. So that's when, I immediately called my team and said, guys, get our product on TV as well. And now we want to be on more more set-top boxes as well. Yeah, so there is a lot of moments in the day for audio where your hands are busy, your eyes are busy, like you're driving, cooking, cleaning, meditating, workout. And if we had more capital, probably I would outshout everyone and say that, look, we are here, and it's even ad-free for most of the experience. But yeah, otherwise, it's going on good. And I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did, yeah. But there's a research has shown that when you're listening to audio, you don't like advertising coming in. How is that problem going to be solved? How is that problem going to be solved when you're listening to podcasts, you're listening to fiction, you're listening to...
Yeah, but then there is a solution to that also, as in for like podcast industry. I know it is weird, when you're listening to a spiritual podcast and there's HDFC Bank suddenly comes in. That makes no sense. That is true. But having said that, just like radio, see, everything which was there in radio is somehow being adapted in podcasts. There are host-read ads, which are amazing because... podcasts, though, they definitely build smaller communities, but they are stronger communities because it's like it's only audio. You literally connect with your host so much that you literally feel that the host is your friend and sitting right next to you. Obviously, great content makes sense there. People like May and Mantra are brilliant there. So that is what it is. And in that case, when that is happening, when the host tells you something, like this is something which I am using, how about you? That will work. Why wouldn't it? It's just and again, it is different from basic influencers as well. Influencers have now blown up. Their communities are huge. Podcasters, they have smaller communities, but closer knit communities. And that's why brands are approaching podcasts.
Yeah, you wanted to say something, Sunil? Go ahead.
On a slightly different note altogether, because I think the point that Sri was making was also about retention of audience, right? And we are also talking about ads interfering with the listening experience. I think the debate should always be about what is the kind of content we are putting out there. You know, the point that you were raising, Anil, sometime back about the growth of the podcast space, I think is also driven largely about the kind of content we are putting out there. There are sporadic, really good quality content, but I think the average content on the podcast space is still a long way to go, right? So I think that's where the focus should be, and that's where you'll hit a critical mass where you'll start having support through subscription, whereby you can then ensure that you have an ad-free this thing. So it's a vicious circle in that sense.
Yeah, but in the US, you have subscription radio. In India, it's never worked. That's the challenge. Indians are not willing to, if they can get something free, they're very happy. So, I mean, Sirius and all of the other platforms, they're not free, if I'm correct. So, Indians are not willing to pay.
You have to get the content right. It finally boils down to content. I think if you put out a great quality content, Indians are ready to pay. I think that's what the growth cycle that every country has gone through, India will also go through that same cycle, right? There is a glut of content out there. Discoverability is a big challenge. You really need to be out there understanding and listening to what the audience want to say. So it should not be from a myopic lens of whether it's audio or video, or audio works better than video and things like that. It is about whether you really understand the pulse of the audience. And being in a radio space, we do that on an almost daily basis. And we take great pride in the fact that we really do that on a regular basis, you know. So just to give you an example, so when the COVID phase was going on, we did a whole initiative called the Big Hug, okay? Now, it was all about the fact people were distraught about the fact that we are socially distanced, we are not able to meet each other and things like that. And we said, why don't we step in and say that we can give you that hug through radio? Right? We can be your companion medium and things like that. A hugely successful initiative. We did another initiative where we got Sadhguru and he spoke about how you cannot control what is happening in the environment, but you can control what is happening within you. The point I'm trying to make is you have to be extremely relevant to the audience mood state. Right? The audience was going through that mind frame at that point in time. And if you understand that and if you stay connected,
you for a second
then
also.
you are
I get that. So he believes that the podcasting industry is at a very nascent stage in terms of creativity, in terms of genres, in terms of formats. I mean, you have the solo genre, you have the interview format, you have the a panel discussion format like we're doing right now. You have different formats coming in. So where are we on this scale as far as content is concerned? She hasn't spoken for some time. Let her speak.
I'll say one thing, which is where right now I think there's an equal measure of people who are willing to not pay. They will be like, I will listen to every ad. I'm not going to pay 1 rupee. You also get, and my thing is that we also have to realize that to some extent our audience is varied, which is when we're talking about community building, we're talking about a lot of this. One of the things that no one now wants to be sold to. So brands are finding, which is why podcasting is so interesting, because you get to create something that aligns with a brand that doesn't have you actually selling your product directly to them. And I think that's where podcasting allows you to have far more nuanced conversation. And I also have to say, I equally get the number of people or brands who have come to me like, let's have a podcast where we're talking to interesting people doing interesting things. And I'm like, no, not another one of these. Inspirational and motivational. Oh my gosh. But I would say is that podcasting allows you, it is that little bit of room to experiment, right? Like my hope is that like brands will use this as an opportunity to do something a little different, a little out of the way. Like, why don't we try doing something that we haven't done already in another media? And so I think that's where my hope is that as a creator, brands are able to invest in creating like podcasts or shows or audio content or even ads within shows that are just that little bit different and that are allowing for a little more experimentation.
I get that, but that's on the getting monetization in place. But what I was talking about, have we got, sorry, I keep thinking of myself still as radio and audio, but has the podcasting and the radio fraternity gone the limit in terms of formats, genres?
No.
Where are we at right now? Where are we?
Absolutely not. We have not at all, in terms of format, explored everything that we possibly could. I can definitely tell you that because like a lot of the shows that I do are in the nonfiction space. And I can definitely tell you that like there aren't enough, like we're talking about documentary formats. We're talking about doing better storytelling. We're talking about different kinds of experiences that you can explore within audio. Definitely we have not even tip of the iceberg also in terms of
Is it because of shortage of talent? Is it because of shortage of ideas? Or is it shortage of investment?
Money.
I think it's all just begun right now. And although being in the same industry, I wouldn't say there's any comparison between radio and podcast. Radio will always primarily be a music medium. Podcast is a talk medium, and the content, which is always going to be the king, is what everybody's concentrating on. And I don't think there is any shortage of good content on podcasts within the last 3-4 years. Like say
talent in terms of exploring new formats, because
it's brilliant. You go down to the kind of docufictions or the documentaries that May was talking about. May it be the Dosa Factory, may it be the maybe any of these science fiction shows or documentary shows, 13 Minutes to the Moon, if you listen to what BBC did with that, or the kind of docufiction that India is doing right now, Death, Lies and Cyanide, or many of the other features are doing tremendously well. They were released many months back, but they still feature in the top 20 podcasts of the country. Why? Because people continue to listen to that. You're absolutely right. There is much more to be done, but I'd say the kind of time that we've spent in the industry, whatever we have done till now, is not sort of phenomenal, but yeah, somewhere around that. As far as fiction is concerned, where I come in, I think that is within the podcasting space, a section that's going to see a huge boom because podcast, great. All of us sitting over here, record the podcast, put it out there. When it comes to fiction, it's almost the way you approach cinema. There's a screenplay, there are actors, there are Foley, there is background music, everything. So fiction is seeing a rise, and I'm very happy about it because people are enjoying audio cinema. And I think...
And you've got a lot of television actors, talent coming in.
Television actor, film actors. We started off with Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. Now you can't get bigger than that. That's with the show with which Eminem launched in 2017 with Audible. Mr. Sonu Sood recently did a series with us called Commander Karan Saxena on Spotify. Ali Fazal and Richa Chadda do a fabulous adaptation series called Virus 2062 that we've done with Kubra Seth has done tremendously well with a series called Interview Before Execution.
But again, that's touching only the urban audiences. That's a challenge. Let me ask it.
Yeah,
you come and answer that. As far as music is concerned, you can also offer solutions to brands, right? Curating kind of songs of a genre, and then accordingly getting brands on board.
Yeah. So, see the sheer growth of the content creators, which is happening. I think one needs to appreciate that, and then you will get a lot of answers. Let me give you certain specific numbers to explain this point. Let's say when we talk today about the Bollywood, there are maybe 150 movies in a year which are worth talking about, which they get released. On average now there are 2 songs. So there are 300 songs which are getting produced. Independent music today is in place of 300, there are 10,000 songs which are getting produced. And I can tell you that quality of those songs any day is far better than what is coming today from Bollywood in general. Now, that content is catching the traction. You look at any college festivals, the main night is now independent music band. It is no more about Bollywood, which is there in those college things, etc., which is happening. Now, brands are getting aware of that. There's a challenge because, like I mentioned earlier, that a lot of decision makers are those guys who have been listening to old content, etc. They don't know what is happening on the ground exactly. So there is a lot of concept selling. There is something which you have to educate them that what is happening on the talent side. But I see large number of brands are showing now, last 1 or 2 years, I've seen huge amount of interest in these new creators. Even when we talk about the radios, perhaps 2-3 years back, no one used to play anything which was independent music. Now almost every radio station is playing independent music. So there's a huge amount of traction for this content which is getting created. And I think there are a lot of synergies which are there in podcasts and other storytelling, because music in India is an integral part. It can play an important part in taking the narrative forward. And it just used to increase the cost. But now, since so much content is available, if we together join hands, you can have much better quality of podcasts at almost negligible price.
Great. So now what I'll do is, I think I'll be running out of time, and but I'd like each one of you all to give one comment about the industry as you all see it. What do you all see happening? Where do you see are the challenges? Three questions, and what are the solutions? Beginning with Sunil.
The challenges?
The challenges and the solutions.
Talking about radio industry per se, the challenge is the most important challenge is the measurability aspect of it. While it drives largely out of perception these days and largely out of feedback that we get from on ground, so we kind of survive, but measurability is one big challenge area. The other thing is about how fast you pivot to other parts of the business, the point that I raised earlier. These are the two big challenges that I see. Opportunities are galore. I think the next step, or actually the big growth traction for most radio businesses, will come out of befriending technology. Okay, we see a lot of opportunity coming at the intersection of content meeting technology, meeting digital, right? So that's where most of our focus at Big FM is. So we have lots of initiatives lined up which are in this space, wherein it breaks the mold of traditional radio listening, but uses the power of radio to leverage the digital environment. So that's where we see the big traction coming.
Okay. NEETI?
Challenges, I would say there are two things. One is like, yes, it is tier 1 specific. If we talk about podcasts, it is now reaching tier 2 and tier 3. That'll take time. So sustaining ourselves during the times is one thing, and money is a problem. But having said that, opportunities, we have solutions. We have solutions as in, it's not only about interview podcasts which brand can work around. If we work around content strongly, say audio dramas, if we work around that, push that brand with it, I think we have so many opportunities and we have so many stories to share, specifically because now we are focused on D2C brands. And these are all story-heavy brands. And when they use the power of audio, it'll take some time for them to understand. If we all work together, I'm sure they will. If that happens, then I think sky's the limit.
So I'll say one thing about the audio medium that I realized is that, and whether you like it or not, I think there is a huge barrier to entry, in the sense that a lot of people do not understand audio well enough as a medium to interact with. Whether you're looking at the way social media allows you to play with photography, allows you to play with video and like cool montages and filters, there's no way to, like, for someone to understand something as basic as like, how do I hold my phone so that I can record it without any blows? Something super basic. So I have realized that through a lot of like the work that we've been doing, that there is a genuine barrier to entry for a lot of people who don't understand even just how to record an audio, how to handle audio production, how to understand sound design, really basic stuff, how to build a show that actually like has value, that kind of thing. So one of the things that I think is really important is something that we've been slowly starting to get into, is that I actually think that education in this space and more people understanding how to make shows, how to make them better, how to understand that there's a variety of formats, how to write for audio, the written word and the spoken word are not the same. So one of the things that like we've been sort of getting involved in, I think is really important, is that there is a huge potential in audio, but I feel like creators don't understand the medium well enough, or not able to interact with it in a way, the same way that you would via social media and so on.
That's the challenge. Opportunities? Is that
education?
Education.
Yes,
so you're getting
like,
into podcast education.
Yeah.
All right.
It's something that I feel like is really important. It's something that we've been sort of, I've never been someone who's very precious about knowledge, and anyone, I've literally, the number of people that contact us every week that ask me, how do I distribute my podcast? Hi, I'm a Dalit filmmaker and I'm making a podcast, but I don't know how to contact people. I don't know how to record, and how do I record online, and what kind of mic is the best mic for me to use. I've had financial analysts contact me to ask me what is a good mic to use. So in my opinion, I think the education around this space and understanding how to interact with the medium well enough to actually make good stuff is like where we see.
So
like
could
a
you
gap.
partner with her on that?
Love to.
Yay!
Yep. So you heard it here. They're going to partner with each other. Sunil.
I think one of the, I would call it both opportunity and challenge is really the mindset of how do you create content which is for mass consumption or niche consumption. Podcasts, etc., are basically non-linear formats. And I strongly feel that unless we change our mindset where we say we are addressing this particular specific niche to create the content, and that is what will give revenue opportunities. There's a different mindset when you create the content which is for masses. That is going to be the challenge. Just to give an example, I don't know, maybe you guys may be knowing, but not perhaps from the point of view of percentage. Today on our platform, when artists approach us for music releases and content, they share the content. The largest genre of the music which is getting created in India today is hip hop, which is approximately 50% of the music which comes to us is a hip hop. Now imagine that if you want to target that community, which is very strongly knit, a hip hop artist does an event, there's a huge amount of participation which happens. So if you target that, okay, my podcast or this program is going to target, that kind of community which is connected with hip hop, your content will tend to get very specialized, but that's where people will pay. That community will pay. I tell you from our own experience, not many people will be knowing about Songdew TV, etc., because we have not made it big announcements, because again we are targeting a niche which is for people who prefer to watch independent music. And for any of the Bollywood channels, people don't pay any subscription. And when we talk about subscription, there's always a challenge how to get subscription. Now, Songdew TV is amongst the top most subscribed service on DTH platform where it is available. And people are paying 30 rupees per month for this one single channel. Now, yeah. So it doesn't have an advantage that you can bundle it with, some other channels and bouquet. It has to stand on its feet where people say, yes, for this channel, I am willing to pay 30 rupees, which in India is a significant amount of money. I've spent my entire life in TV business, so I know that it's very difficult. Z stars struggle to sell their entire bouquet. Obviously, numbers are different for 30 rupees, etc. Here is standalone channel, but you can make money if you have a content which is targeting a particular niche which is there.
Yeah, so I see a potential for you partnering with her. I see a potential for partnering with him. Are you guys going to get into bed with each other?
We will reach out to each other. We already made a pact. So
Sorry?
we already connected on that. So we will.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're on the challenges and the solutions.
Yeah, just before that, Anil, just a closing note on the previous topic, like ad being disrupting the listener experience. Yes, it is. So there is one more person involved in this three, listener, podcaster, but also the advertiser, right? So if you look at the difference is, if you look at a brand that is really committed, imagine a property like a Coke Studio. You cannot call it only a studio. It is Coke Studio, right? People listen to it for the beauty of the content, the quality of the content, but it's brand written all over it, but yet tastefully, right? So marketers who invest time and energy in creating, whether it's audio or video, and have their brand message in it as natively as possible, will clearly win from those who think of an Excel sheet, kitna impression hai batao, mera ad dal do, kind of an
The
right?
media planner talks about CPMs, talked about
Correct,
CTRPs.
Yeah, so if you take a shortcut, lazy approach, it's not going to benefit anyone, but marketers who invest time and energy, that's the only way to win in this, right? So that being said, the general challenges that I usually...
I'm going to interrupt you for a second before you go there. You're one of the most regionally expansive, offerers of audio.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that, because you're doing a lot for the audio industry yourself. Is that going to be a challenge for you, being in so many languages?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. It's actually an empty playground. So I feel like there aren't any much players there. So I'm free to play as long
Continue
as
with what you were saying earlier.
yeah. So I was saying the challenge generally is there isn't a single body that measures and tracks all the numbers in the podcast industry. It's all over the place. So if at all there is an initiative that brings together a collective, that even if it's an aggregate level data at the industry level, I understand some players might be very hesitant to share because they might be not confident of their numbers. That's okay. But as an aggregate level, let's say India listens to this. This is the genre that works in this markets, right? This is the TG that appreciate this kind of content. So if there is an industry level collaboration that comes into play, and there it gives a sense of what's going on, then a lot of brands would also be interested.
Isn't the IMI working on this? The Internet and Mobile Association of India?
I am I lead the voice and audio committee there,
Yeah.
and there isn't anything at the moment happening as such. So it's going to need not a publisher, not a apex body like them, but publishers to come together. That's the only way it's going to work, because publishers have the data. It could be an independent podcaster or a
Will Google Voice agree? Will Audible agree? Will all of these people agree?
Hence the ask. It may not be absolute numbers, but even if it's an aggregate level, saying, look, this North Indian markets, this is the content that goes. This is the age group of TG that is the most active. This is the time of the day that is the most active. So even if it's all blind, but there is some start.
We'll talk to you about this. Maybe
Sure.
radio and music can take a lead
Yeah.
in this, but we will need some investment from you all guys for that.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
all in. Thank you.
Go ahead.
No, I completely agree. Actually, analytics is going to be the name of the game, and you're absolutely right. That I think the challenge would be to convince the brands to come towards this market. And for those numbers, I keep for me every time I go back to Aditya, my dear friend from Idea Brews, he's my analytics man. If I ever need to know more about the numbers, but overall, I think also one thing, it's an ever-evolving market, and just the way it was a natural progression from radio to podcast. Even podcasts, the way we know them right now, might not be the same way in the next couple of years, and the way as fast as it is moving. Wait on for personalized podcasts, personalized AIs, personalized tech made for you, a podcast specifically made for this one person, not a generic podcast. So much is going to be lined up in a couple of next years. So keeping up with the times is going to be the challenge.
So personalization is going to be one of the things
totally.
that's going to come in.
Totally.
Fantastic. So we're going to see glory and success for this whole industry. Thank you very much, all of you all, for being a part of this. I hope it was useful to the audience. Thank you.